if they were going to sell into the market. It's not going to happen. We have to have approval of the U.S. Congress as well. And, I can just see Harry Reid in there from Searchlight, Nevada, jumping up and down like a Maikäfer. That's a beetle in German. And saying, no, you can't do that. I mean, we get so much income and so many people are employed here in the state, and that might do something terrible to and all that stuff. And so I think Harry will be out there saying no. And he's got a very powerful position, and everybody owes him. Okay, here we go. Question for the radio show known as Queen Diva. Melody, Jim Spiegel. Incidentally, in German, Spiegel means mirror. Do you think Presidente, with an E, Obama will devalue the dollar by decree, or will the dollar just deflate on its own? I think it's going to deflate on its own. I don't think you're going to have any devaluation anytime soon. Were he to do that, as FDR did, when do you think the time frame for such actions would be? It might be 3 or 4 years from now. It's not close, believe me. And they're going to let the SDR ride for a while and play that silly game as the dollar comes down. And eventually gold will go right back up again. Bob, this is from Michael. If you would like to save this question for Melody Show, that's fine. Do these criminals also control the metal markets in other countries as well as here? And the answer is yes. They control all markets all over the world. On a leverage basis, they probably got about, let me think, 7. They probably got about $4 to $5 trillion to play with. But mind you, they're doing all markets at the same time. So the answer is all markets. Explain how 750,000 people can lose their jobs and the Dow goes up 300 points. Well, again, it's your government in action, and we got to change that. And the first thing we got to do is get rid of any possibility of having executive orders, because why have them when you have a Congress? If you have them, you don't need any Congress. The president can do anything he wants. Stupid. So we got to end that. Are people really that gullible? Yes, they are. Perhaps in America, but worldwide? Yes, they are. The Japanese-Chinese markets, how can they possibly go up without manipulation? Good point. They can't. I mean, they're in tough shape. The Chinese are going to have a lot of inflation, and they're spending dollars. I think you probably saw some of the deals that they made in dollars. And, that gold comes up, they'll take it all. 403 tons, take the whole thing. They'll be glad to get rid of the dollars without disrupting the market. And he says it breaks my heart to see the masses sucked in, but that's the way it always is. And they trump off the war and get themselves killed. Melody, this is from Al. Resubmitting these questions. But the stock market crashed last fall, and winter precious metal mining stocks went down with everything else. Last week they went up with everything else. What can we expect these stocks to disconnect from the general stock market? It is just coincidence. The gold and silver shares don't have anything to do with the stock market, never have, and it's a misnomer. It can be, the metal stocks can be affected by a falling market with margin calls in the falling market that could force people to sell gold and silver stocks to raise funds so that they don't have to meet margin requirements. Possibility. What's wrong with deflation? If inflation erodes the buying power of money, doesn't deflation increase the buying power? And the answer is no, because you've got 30, 35 million unemployed, thousands and thousands and thousands of business not functioning. There's no jobs to speak of. 2/3 of the population is working and the other third is not. You got massive debt, No. Deflation is far worse than inflation, actually. Inflation is bad, don't get me wrong. But deflation is horrible. We had a gold standard until 1971. Why didn't that prevent the Great Depression of the 1930s? And the reason is that the Federal Reserve strangled the market for money. They wouldn't give them any in 1929 and 30, and that's really what caused the dreadful depression. And they blame it on the Smoot-Hawley Act, which is trade barriers, which only amounted to 5% or less. They blamed it on Glass-Steagall, and all they did was put a wall between brokerage community and banking. And no, the Fed was to blame, just as they are this time. And a gold standard is very, very good. The problem is, will the people who are running it debauch it? And that's what they've done before. On one of your shows, you said stock up on toilet paper. A friend who prepares packages for soldiers in Iraq said the soldiers' most requested item is baby wipes.
Yeah,
so
we went
there
over
you go.
that on Friday.
I know, but he wasn't listening. Okay, here we go. I own gold. When time comes to sell it, and everyone sells it, will the price be depressed? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. And we could have people trading gold coins and bullion between themselves for goods. We don't know what's going to happen. We're just preparing. This is all insurance policy. If we're wrong, that's okay. You just eat the food. Can't eat the gold, but look, if everything else goes down 60 to 100%, and your gold goes nowhere, you're a winner. So just keep that in mind. And what would you sell it for? We don't know. Probably food. Next question, John. Much has been said about banks getting loads of bailout money, and yet the same banks refuse to lend to business for economic stimulus. However, you never discuss the business case for this decision. That's a good point. The banks need the money for collateralization because their balance sheets are just dreadful. Really, really dreadful. They're holding all of this toxic waste, and the toxic waste isn't going away. And that's why I said earlier in the program, it's going to be a hard sell. And the taxpayer is picking up all the bills for these bankers. I mean, every one of you should write every congressman and tell them, we do not want to pay the bills for the banks. Let them go under. It's a good thing to do in your spare time. The bankers must be fully aware that all this money creation is very inflationary. To make profitable loans, the interest rates would have to be very high, so high as to price themselves out of the reach of business. I surmise that is why they are not lending. And it is a consideration by the banks. I mean, they don't want to make a loan if they can help it with a 4.5% or 5% interest rate. Borrowing short to lend long is not a very good thing to do. The next one and last one is from Ron, and I answered it for him, but I thought I'd answer it on the program. FDIC. Isn't the FDIC a co-op insurance program between the government and the banks? And that's the answer is yes. Is it true that both the government and the banks make contributions to an insurance pool for bank deposits? And is it true that in the last several years that the bank's contributions to the pool have gradually decreased? That's wrong. They both put money in, and the amount of money banks are putting in has increased, not decreased. And the FDIC, he asked, is it $40 billion they're short? And I think the figure is $24 billion. But whatever it is, it's awful. And that's going to have to be bailed out by the government. If all this is true, then How can people ever have confidence in the banking system if the very insurance program that is designed to protect deposits is essentially bankrupt, much like our government? And he's got a good point. And, you know, like the money market funds, they come up, I think, again shortly, maybe the fall, to have insurance extended upon them. I'm sure that they will do that. But, you know what you're talking about? $3.8, $3.9 trillion in money market funds. They all went under. Dreadful situation. And that's it. Go ahead, Mel.